Hello and welcome. My name is Biagio Mazza, Pastoral Associate at St. Sabina Parish in Belton, Missouri, and I'm here to welcome you to another Do You Know question from our Do You Know series. Continuing our discussion on dialogue, today's Do You Know question addresses the issue of what is dialogue and how does one go about doing dialogue. Starting with a quote from Pope Francis, it is important to stress why we are involved in dialogue. Pope Francis, in his ecumenical and interreligious meeting that he had in Sarajevo on June the 6th, 2015, stresses that interreligious dialogue, as in every part of the world, is an indispensable condition for peace, and for this reason, it is the duty of all believers. So dialogue is not something that's remote only to theologians or experts in the field, but dialogue is for all of us in order to, as Pope Francis says, it's an indispensable condition for peace. There are various types of dialogue, and this is important. Not all can be involved in dialogue the way theologians are, but rather there are various types of dialogues articulated by the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue in a document that they produced, and Elizabeth Johnson, in her work on Quest for the Living God, actually expands on those. And I would like to mention those briefly to show you what are the various types of dialogue and how we could be engaged in dialogue ourselves. There are 4 different types of dialogue. The first one is called the dialogue of life. This is the dialogue of where we engage people who think differently from us, who are others, live in other kinds of worldviews, religious beliefs and practices, and we work together and try to live together in harmony and mutual understanding and respect. It's a dialogue of life that occurs at the workplace, it occurs in community, it occurs in various community settings and organizations. There's also the dialogue of action. This is where we, together with others, with other religious beliefs and practices, work together to better the lives of all the people in the world, especially in our communities, in our religious environment, and so on. This is called the dialogue of action. There's also the dialogue of religious experience. The dialogue of religious experience actually unfolds itself when we open ourselves to the possibility of experienced beliefs, rituals, and religious practices of the other. We'd have to move out of our comfort zone and be willing to be with others as they practice their own religious beliefs and practices and learn and be mutually enhanced by the other. And finally, there's the dialogue of religious exchange. This is the one where primarily theologians, people who are experts in the field of religion or various other expertise in religious dialogue, these would be the people who would meet with equals on the same level and enter into dialogue to clarify and understand both our similarities and our differences. So in order for this theological exchange dialogue to take place, and actually in many ways for many of the other types of dialogue, what's essential is a number of characteristics that need to be followed. First of all, the purpose for dialogue is to increase understanding and respect of the other. We have to be willing to listen and open ourselves up to the other. We have to assume that the other is also willing to listen and open themselves to our perspective as well. We have to be grounded in our own theological beliefs and practices, and we have to speak out of those as we listen and honestly try to understand where the other is coming from in their worldview and their religious perspectives. We also have to always trust that the other is speaking with sincerity and honesty, as we should be speaking with sincerity and honesty in any dialogue. Dialogue, by its very nature, is not debate. It's not an attempt to convince the other of anything. Dialogue is an attempt to speak with the other in order to do mutual understanding and respect and dialogue. It demands that we allow the others to speak without contradicting them, and vice versa. It also demands that we also can be critical of our tradition, meaning that in our tradition, we have to be willing to respond to and try to understand the objections that others have to our own traditions and vice versa. And also, one of the key aspects of this would be that we would be willing and take the stretch to walk in the other people's shoes and try to see the world from their perspective. These various ways of doing dialogue are clearly very important. Words, theological concepts, all these have to be clearly defined so we can all understand and move together in mutual understanding and respect. All these conditions are important for doing the dialogue of theological exchange, as well as for any other type of dialogue. And we need to constantly try to follow these concepts or these conditions or these predispositions for dialogue to be effective. If we don't, then dialogue will never work. So I hope this was at least a brief introduction about what dialogue is, the various types of dialogue, and what are the conditions for effective dialogue. I hope that you will return again once more to further Do You Know questions so that we can continue our growth and development as followers of Christ. Thank you very much.